The preparation of self. The preparation for the way is a preparation of self. Each of us is the door that he, the way, may enter. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. I am the way, the truth, and the life. We must work to bring that consciousness, that awareness of his presence, into our material and mental affairs of life. The lesson must ever be, the spirit is the life, the mind is the builder, and the physical is the result. Only when we completely surrender to the working of the Christ Spirit can we say truthfully the door to the kingdom within is open. All selfish thoughts must be obliterated and replaced with the desire to be used by Him in carrying out His will in the world. When we seek our neighbor's good rather than our own, we may expect our reward in proportion to the good we send out. When we become self-centered, we eventually feel that we are being cheated in life. It is then that we close ourselves to the good we might give out and at the same time, build a barrier to the good that might flow to us. As we seek to know the way, we must come in singleness of purpose and think not of the hindrances that are made by mortals. Rather, know in whom we have believed and recognize that He has brought all things into being. As we seek and know this, we are His. In choosing Him, He has chosen us. As we realize we are one with Him, we become workers, pointing others to that joy, peace, and happiness that we have found. Will we not be faithful to the calling wherein He has called us? How shall we begin? Let us take that which we have in hand, that which we have builded day by day, and, without fear, open the door that He may enter in and abide with us. Faith is the beacon that lights the path to the open door of the Father's house. Service is the password that admits us into the banquet hall. Come ye blessed of my Father, enter into the kingdom prepared for you. For as ye have done unto one of the least of these, my brethren, so ye did it unto me. We have to contend with many conflicting forces when we would have faith and serve others. Selfishness and sensitiveness shut the ideal from view and prevent a wholehearted cooperation with our fellow human beings in our daily lives. They may so retard our development that nothing seems worthwhile. These hindering qualities can even bring thoughts of self-destruction. It is only when self is put aside and the Spirit is allowed to lead that we indeed are free and able to accomplish anything that is of real, lasting value. When the thoughts of doubt, lack, and self-condemnation begin to creep in, the door begins to close more and more, until not even a ray of light may filter through to light the way. When these thoughts are allowed to remain in control, there is no despair more terrible. We are shutting out the light and living behind closed doors. Closed to God and His goodness. Do we wonder that where these thoughts are uppermost there are suicides, murders, and sins of every kind in evidence? Are not many in the world at this time ready to be shown a more perfect way? We show through service that as He overcame the world and became the way, just so may we, who follow in His steps, overcome all things. Keep the way open. Block not thyself from receiving Him. For He knocks at the door of thy consciousness. Wilt thou not let Him in? I am the way, the truth, the light. Know that in Him is the light that will shine to the inmost recesses of thine heart, thine consciousness. Yea, thy mind and thine soul will rejoice in the Lord. He will do thee good. Let not thine heart be troubled. Thou hast made the way open. Then keep the purposes that are willed in self and in self's activity, as related to the material, the mental, and the spiritual influences in thine activity. For He is the way, the life and the truth. No man may approach those things that will be for the constructive influence in his life if they are not founded in the principles He has given: love thy neighbor as thyself. Do good to those that despitefully use you. To make these corrections for the mental conditions is to so fill the mental forces of the body with that plenteous love of the Master and his oneness with the Father, that there is found no place for the entrance of that which would beguile, or make weak, or make afraid. 4. As has been given. Let that mind be in you which was in Jesus, the Christ, who took no thought of the morrow, for the morrow brings forth the evils sufficient unto itself, who made his life of no estate, that others might know the love and the fatherhood of God, that he, the Christ, might become the living way, the approach to the Father. And what thou askest in my name, believing, ye shall have. If ye love me, keep my commandments, and I will come and dwell in thine own heart. That is, I will so fill your mind, your mental forces with the good, until all else shall be driven away. And study, then. Study to show thyself approved unto the Creator of all things. Be satisfied with nothing short of a universal consciousness, guided or guarded by the Lord of the way, or the way itself. In him is life. Why be satisfied with a lesser portion than a whole measure? No, he hath promised that if ye ask, ye shall receive. Be satisfied only then with the consciousness of his presence. Who? That in whom ye have believed. That abides with thee. For if ye will knock, I will open. For I stand at the door and knock. If ye will but open thy tabernacle of consciousness to allow the Holy to come in and sup with thee, yea, all the beauties of peace and harmony are thine. For they are the birthright of each soul. For the soul is the portion of the Maker that makes the individual, yet with the consciousness of being one with God, the universe, the love. That which is beauty and harmony. How can I extend the borders of my consciousness to include fourth-dimensional knowledge and achieve greater spiritual illumination? These illuminations, the greater visions, only come by the communion with the true life and light from within. For as thy body is the temple of thy own self, so is the kingdom of heaven within, even as he gave. And if ye will but open the door of thy consciousness and let him come in, he will sup with thee and give thee that thou may use day by day. As ye sow in spirit, so may the mind build that ye reap in materiality. As ye sow in materiality, so may that mind build to make for dissension or a paralleling of an activity in the spiritual import. They are interchangeable. 4. First in spirit, then in mind, then is the materialization. 4. Mind is the builder. Even as ye find thy body, thy mind, thy soul, the three-dimensional experience of an individual that become comparable with the Father, the Son and the Holy Spirit. The Son is the mind. He is the way. So the mind of self is the way. The physical is the result, and the spiritual will build that as is builded in the mental being, and a physical result is then amenable to outside influences that are mental, material, and physical. Hence there are being applied in the physical being of this body those conditions that, while these are material, and while the mental body is in the condition of being disturbed, this gives rise to those conditions of discouragement. This must have the outside influence to give the proper incentive in a correlated effect or correlated manner to this body, so that the whole physical reaction will be in keeping with that, as the mental being would have the body be. Then, be consistent. Persistent. In the spiritual, mental and physical application of all those conditions that apply to the physical body, to the material body, to the mental body, and the spiritual will guide and lead aright. For we are one in him, and ourselves may only get in the way of a full development. Then keep those, as yet, as have been given, and be patient in well-doing. Do not be overcome, but overcome evil with good. Materially, mentally, physically, apply this in the body. Do that. How can I make good karma from this period? as has been given as to what karmic influence is and what one must do about same. Lose self in the consciousness of the indwelling of the creative force in that channel as has been prepared for the escape of the sons and daughters of men through the Son of Man. This is the escape and what to be done about it. Lose self. Make his will one with thy will, or thy will be lost in his will, being a channel through which he may manifest in the associations of self with the sons and daughters of men. Please explain the message given to me in the healing when it says, there are many considerations to be given in this entity's preparation for this particular phase of work, as the association of the individual, as an individual, with members of the group. Just much as has been given may be applied in this direction. As the entity's development is, that there must be raised in each individual that consciousness of the indwelling, or, to put it in material manner, the superseding of the Christ consciousness in that matter that would be healed, whether by its injection by those that through cooperation raise such vibrations in an individual, or through that of one individual raising same in self. So, all these receive their consideration, as has been given. To whom ye speak, how ye speak, where, when, and how. These must all be considered. Would one not become arrogant? Would one not become self-centered, self-condemning? Self-surrendering first, then raise the consciousness that will supersede, will overcome. For only in his name may the world and its environs be overcome. For, as he overcame even death, so may ye in his name overcome the ills that the flesh is heir to, through its advent into a material world. I am not of this world. Ye are not of this world, if ye abide in me. But I may only be manifest in the material world through thine own raising of that consciousness. As I abide in the Father, and ye abide in me, I in ye, ye in me, we may bring that to pass as ye seek. In manifesting in the present, just where should I draw the line between being a non-entity and expressing my individuality? Let the expressing be, as has been given above, the individuality of the Christ, rather than a personality or an individuality of self. Be selfless in Christ. Ask thine self, what would the Christ have me do? Don't be afraid, but be rather alive in that thou doest. When thou hast acted unseemly, what has been the promise, what is the manner he has taught thee to pray? As I forgive, may I be forgiven. Ask forgiveness, and he may forgive thee. For, as has been given, as has been expressly given in this and in many expressions of how there are the manifestations of the Christ. As ye show forth the Lord's death and that ye humble yourselves that ye may approach does not mean, as he showed in his life, that ye said as passively good but as actively good. For good can only proceed from good. Good may not be done that evil appears. For, like only begets like. This is an irrefutable law, whether in spirit, in mind, or in body. Like begets like. For might and power are of the Lord. For no man, no entity, no purpose in the experience of any soul is existent save by the grace of God that the earth might become his footstool. And the dwelling place of who? Those that are righteous within their own selves? No. They that have humbled themselves and are faithful to the trust and purposes that have been put into their ways, into their opportunities for being that channel of blessings to someone day by day. How beautiful the face of those whom the Lord, the Christ, smiles upon. He would walk and talk with thee, my children, if ye will, but put away from thy mind those things and conditions that ye feel are in the way. For, they are as naught compared to the great love that he has bestowed upon his brethren. How beautiful the face, how lovely the clouds. In his presence abide. Ye every one of you are before him just now. His face is turned toward thee, his heart and hand is offered you. Will ye not accept him just now? How glorious the knowledge of his presence should awaken in the hearts of you. For he is lonely without thee. For he has called each of you by name. Will ye fail him now? Let his love, as he gave, be the impelling influence in thine associations one with another. Yea, though ye crucify him in thine activities and words one to another, he was crucified that ye might know him the better. For thus he became thy Lord, thy brother, thy Savior, thy intermediator with God, the Father. Count it joy, then, even as he, that ye are called by him in a service. In a loving service. To thy fellow man. For through this lowly, weak, unworthy channel has he chosen to speak. For the purposes of this soul have been to do good unto his brethren. Love ye him. Comfort and care. For thy master has loved him, thy brother, thy neighbor, thy friend. Love God, eschew evil. Speak oft with thy brother, thy Savior, thy Christ. For he is oft in the midst of thee. He would bless this house, will ye but keep him near at hand. Turn him not away with harsh words, unkind thoughts, or belittling acts one to another. If ye are faithful to confess thy faults one to another, he is faithful to forgive. For he alone can purge thy soul and make it light in his heart, his bosom, his blood. For it was shed for thee, that thou mightest know the love of God, of Christ, in thine day. For the hand of the Lord is upon thee, and upon him that speaks with thee. Do good that he may abide with thee, that the clouds of doubt and fear may be purged every whit from thine experience, from thine consciousness. And know that he is alive in thee, wilt thou but love one another, even as he has loved you. See the glory of his light shine upon him that speaks to thee. Know the Lord is nigh unto thee. Fare ye in the way that brings peace, harmony. For if ye will have peace, make peace with another, make peace with thyself, thy Lord, thy Christ, thine brother. Love one another. It has been given, there ever stands before the souls of men, the choice to be made as to whether ye will be the servants of that which satisfies the desires of the material or carnal forces, or that which satisfies the desires of the Spirit, that the Lord and his glory may be manifested through the activities of self in a material world. And that the glories of the body and its activities, with its associations, may aid in bringing to bear, and in bringing about those things that will bring peace and harmony and joy to many. These things create harmony and understanding. May the entity know in whom it is believed, knowing that, as ever, he is able to keep that committed unto him against any experience or hardship that may arise in the experience of any soul. Be faithful to that thou knowest in thine heart to do. Though the heavens fall, though the earth may pass away, in his own time he will draw thee. Wilt thou but show thy willingness to be drawn? But not against thine better or thine inner self. Make known to the giver of light thy willingness, thy purposefulness, and those things of the mental will build such an experience that the rebellions, the secular forces, the desires for the self-aggrandizement may be eliminated. Which may only be done in him. For he paid the price for all. He gave the life. Wilt thou trust thy life, thy soul, into his keeping? Know, then, in whom ye believe and in what ye believe, spiritually. Then know what is thy idea and also thy ideal mentally. For mind is the builder. For it partakes both of materiality and eternity and spirituality. These know, for these are true. The results in thy experience materially will be when ye are assured, pleasing first in the sight of God, and harmonious in thine own experience. First find self and know what and who and in whom thou wouldst believe, to whom thou wouldst serve, and why. And whether these be for the spirit of the law of one, or for the aggrandizement of self's own individual self. For as ye chose in that experience in Atlantis both ways, these will be thy experience in the present. Meet them only, and they may only be met in him who is the author, the maker of light, life and immortality, in that he came that man in the flesh might know the way. For he is the way, the water of life, the vine, and men and women are the branches. If they are grounded in him. If they take root in the earth for their own dependence, it must become as tares that must be rooted out. Then, study to show self approved unto him, with him. For as thou hast had power, might, in the earth. So in him and the earth may ye again make for that of an awakening in self, in others, as to those truths that, if ye love me and keep my commandments, I will come and abide with thee, that thou mightest have that power in the earth as was given thee in the beginning. Why is it that at times I seem to lose the ability of attunement, such as example, when I try to gain things myself or follow Mrs. 3734. Telephone operator who has recently developed psychic sensitivity. In faith one seeks, and in self alone may the full knowledge and full understanding come. Trust not in powers made with hands, but rather in that builded in the life of him able to keep that committed unto him. Faltering is only a proof of the abilities. For who would gain heaven and the whole of the knowledge of same, must know there are the opposites, or away from. Trust in that given thee, and in use of that given, understanding comes. Then as the old law is. If you would have friends, be friendly. If you would have patience shown you, show patience to others. Cultivate rather the influences that may become constructive, without the thoughts of material gains that may be yours. For peace, harmony, things that are known as material gains, must be the result of honest effort, honest desire in the direction of being creative in relationships to others. Rather than the result of getting while there is the ability for it to be obtained without thought of the source. For this can only bring canker and rust and those things that create fear in the minds and experiences of others. Begin with that in hand, as was given to the great lawgiver of old. The command was to use that already in hand, and through the use of same see such manifestations of the guiding, directing force, as would lead to the establishment of that which would give much to many peoples. Please tell me my faults and the best way to overcome them, so I may better serve my fellow man, especially those seeking help in this prayer group. Keep that thou hast in hand, adding to thy faith those necessary requirements for the growth that is known in self. Remove farther and farther from self-selfishness, that thy whole life, thine whole purpose, thine whole aim, may be bound in him. For he that would have life must give self in the service that brings life in the experience of others. Please expand on how we can learn. So oft has this been given, and though it may be repeated again and again, there is only one way. Use that thou hast in hand day by day. For knowledge and understanding come with the application and the experience of self in doing that which is known to be in accord with his will. Example after example may be given in the experience of any individual. As they apply that knowing in whom they have believed, with the comparisons of the ideal as the standard, as the gauge and judge, they come to the knowledge of the forces that are manifest from experience to experience, from day to day. How then may the entity, 416, apply self in the present for the meeting and the making of that which will create, build, construct within the experience that which is constructive? Giving out that ye have, in the mental and spiritual import, for the helpfulness of that force about the entity. Thus does the growth come. For in the growth of every force we find the multiple of itself by its activity upon itself constitutes growth. Whether this is in the mental self, the spiritual self or the physical world. It is the multiple of itself upon itself. Not for itself but of itself. As it gives out then, it grows. So does the entity, using that in hand day by day. Not as a multiplicity of thought, not as that I may take advantage of this or that. Rather, how may I be of service in making for constructive forces in the life, in the experience, in the activity, in the associations of those things about me? Little by little, line upon line. This is the manner, this is the growth, this is the way in which the entity may fulfill, may meet, may overcome. And satisfy, not gratify, but satisfy, that longing for its relationship to the creative forces that manifest in the influences about the entity, as they do in its own self. Hence in thy seeking, find that answer. Not as from something without, but from opening the door of thy own consciousness to the promises that are sure in him. For ye will find that is the pattern which was shown in the mount to Moses, as well as the greater pattern in the temptations to Jesus upon the mount. In that indeed as he was lifted up, he draws all men, and this means women also, unto him. This then is, shall be, ever, the basis of thy faith, and not as in they of whom he spoke, many shall come in that day and say, did we not thus and so in thy name accomplish among men those things that bespeak of heavenly things, and I will say I know ye not. For he that seeks the Lord must believe that he is, would they if he would find him. For one doubting has already builded that barrier that prevents the proper understanding, whether as to physical, mental or spiritual attributes, or spiritual aid, or mental aid, or physical aid. For that in faith sought for shall be thine, even as was given, be my people and I will be your God. What is the best way for me to help humanity? Through those channels which have been outlined for it. Apply self to the place wherein the entity finds the work to do. Remember those same injunctions as have been given to those of old apply to the individuals that are in the presence of the Maker in the present. Use that thou hast in hand. And the request for the service to man, in the service of the Maker, is an individual's making. Through the assistance, aid and help brought to others, the assistance comes to those that would keep in that service as the individual may render. As the entity there did rise to that position of power through the gentle ministry of the fruits of the Spirit to the fellow men in that land, so may it in the present in giving out to others, not only by precept but by example. For as ye do it unto the least of these, my little ones, ye do it unto me, has been said and set from the beginning. So, as ye make thyself a channel for the ministry of patience, hope, brotherly love, kindness, gentleness, making for those fruits in thyself, in thy experience in life, ye make for the growth in those understandings in him. This meditated upon. Not merely as a passive experience but as an activative one. Knowing that what is given in as ye do it unto the least of these, thy brethren, ye do it unto me, is an actuality, is an experience of which each individual soul should become aware in its associations with its fellow man. Not that this becomes merely idealistic, but practical application of love. Remember above all, as he hath given, as ye do it unto the least of thy brethren, of thy associates, of thy companions, day by day, ye do it unto thy God. Yea, the God within thyself. Then follow close in that way and manner as he hath given. For the law of the Lord is love, and it is in each soul that it finds the answer to those promises as he hath made. Those promises are for each soul. For he is the church, the bridegroom for each soul that seeks to know his face and his ways. And he is not slack, as men, in keeping those promises to those who are faithful in meeting to their fellow men those very influences that bespeak that the Spirit of truth is directing. For as he hath given, as ye do it unto the least of my children, ye do it unto me. Hence thine applications become practical everyday life, and not merely tenets or sayings. But life. For he is life. And thy brother. Not in selfishness, not in grudge, not in wrath. Not in any of those things that make for the separation of the I am from the creative forces, or energy, or God. But the simpleness, the gentleness, the humbleness, the faithfulness, the longsuffering, patience. These be the attributes and those things which the soul takes cognizance of in its walks and activities before men. Not to be seen of men, but that the love may be manifested as the Father has shown through the Son and in the earth day by day. Thus he keeps the bounty, thus he keeps the conditions such that the individual soul may, if it will but meet or look within, find indeed his presence abiding ever. The soul, the individual that purposely, intentionally, turns the back upon these things, choosing the satisfying of the own self's desire, then has turned the back upon the living God. Am I too selfish? Selfishness is the greater fault in most individuals. There should be set before self an ideal, a spiritual ideal. Not such an ideal that I would like to have a house like John Smith's, and a wife that dresses like Mrs. Smith, and a car like John Smith's boy runs, or a dog or a horse such as those. That's material. Rather set an ideal in the spiritual sense, and know that he that would be greatest among men will be the servant of all. The servant cannot be selfish, either in nature, in person, in fact, but prefers the other in preference to self. In serving in the business relationships, know the business, know what life would be aided by being associated and related to such a place or business, and so does selfishness become rather blessedness in the eyes of those the body mentally, physically, would serve. Then, self must become selfless and not in any form or manner desire those things that would be advantageous over others, in that others would have to suffer that self might have the advantage. For that is selfishness and not selflessness. And selflessness is that to which each entity, each soul, must attain through the varied experiences in the material plane. One that will find that the greater influence in life is in that of service to all. The abilities to which, then, the entity may attain in the present sphere lie in the following out of those conditions as have been given, as have been outlined for the entity, in the manner, the nature, the character of earthly labors, ever remembering first. Service to others is the highest service to God. Ever keep self in that way and manner as to be able to answer for the faith that lies within. Ever be in that way of using all force as is manifest before the entity to the glorification of God rather than of self. For the application of self is self's reflection of the God worshipped. No, this information is not to set a law or judgment, but rather to help the entity become conscious and have the knowledge of the weaknesses, the virtues that are innate. That the entity in the light of that it holds within itself may then choose. For it is ever true as was given in the days of old, that there is today. Each day. Now. Set before thee good and evil, life and death. Choose thou. And the answer ever depends upon whether or not there is that choice as was pronounced by another leader. And a prototype of him who gave his life a ransom for all. Indeed, let others do as they may, but for me and my house, we will serve a living God. Such a choice then is to be made in self. For know that the kingdom is within. That it is within self, and the temple of thy own soul, that you may meet him. Is it then to be glory of self, duty to this, that or the other, irrespective of what is the ideal? Or is it as he gave, others may do as they may? What is thy choice? Who is the living God? How does he manifest? The whole law is this. Thou shalt love the Lord with all thy heart, thy body, thy soul. Thy neighbor as thyself. This is the whole law. Above such there is no other. The manifesting of that, the seeking to do that, with the knowledge of the abilities to better serve in this or that direction, may make then not what has been, but what is the most outstanding, the greater development. to the entity. Do not attempt to justify self, ever. Rather let thy purpose, thy desire, thy hope, thy faith, ever be. And purpose. To the glory of the Father through the Son, manifested in the earth, who never attempted to supplant. Only applied the laws of God in the spiritual, in the mental, and thus in the material brought miracles, the increase, the activity that overcame the laws of gravity. These ye may do, as the children of God. For to each that lives with and in keeping with the purposes of all to the glory of the Father, he gives power for such to become the children of God, brothers then with that way and purpose. For, as he who is the way, the truth and the light, came into the world to teach men, to live in such a manner as to convince men that they as individuals are indeed the sons of God, and that they should live like such. Thus it behooves everyone that seeks to be a channel of blessing, of hope to others, to first study and know what his life and his precepts are. They are not past finding out. For he has revealed and does reveal himself to those who seek to know his biddings. These are not mere words, then, wherein he says, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If ye will open, I will enter in." Thus ye seek to know what he would have thee do, knowing, as he hath given, that in the manner, in the way ye treat thy fellow man, ye are treating thy Lord, thy God. Thus it may be given. Study to show thyself approved unto that thou hast learned, thou mayest learn of him. Rightly emphasizing all phases of thy relationships to thy God, to thy fellow man, and keeping self unspotted from condemnation of self or of others.